From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Using money from the sale of skis, snowboards, and other sporting goods to protect Colorado communities from increasingly devastating wildfires. It's an idea proposed by several conservation groups that could go before voters later this year. Colorado law requires that most state tax revenue be refunded when the state runs a surplus. But a new proposal calls for the state to keep the surplus money collected from outdoor gear sales and use it to fund wildfire prevention and watershed conservation. Supporters say as wildfire seasons in Colorado grow longer and more destructive, it's crucial to find new money for prevention, especially when federal funding hinges on shifting priorities in Washington. Colorado Sun reporter Jason Blevins recently wrote about the idea, what it would mean for Colorado's forests and open spaces, and how it might show up on your November ballot. So, Jason, this proposal would generate an estimated $130 million a year. Give us an idea of what this money might go toward in terms of prevention and fighting of wildfires.
Yeah, so these conservation groups, they're called Conservation Colorado, the Nature Conservancy, the Trust for Public Land, and Western Resource Advocates submitted this ballot proposal to the Colorado Legislative Council, and they are seeking permission to retain those sales taxes collected on outdoor gear to protect watersheds, conserve landscapes, open recreational access, and improve forest health by reducing the threat of wildfires. Mm-hmm. So the idea is that this funding, which is already being collected and typically put in back to taxpayers as part of Tabor, would be retained and sort of support a lot of communities in Colorado and along the Front Range and sort of reduce wildfire risk and preserve open spaces.
Okay, so kind of maybe a little thinning, a little reducing of fuels, that kind of thing?
Exactly. And, there's a wide range of techniques and strategies used for wildfire mitigation, but it would be forest health, science-driven thinning, of course, and, clearing canopies or clearing, bottom layers of forests and really just sort of reducing the risk of catastrophic wildfire, which is what we've been seeing more and more of in Colorado.
Give us some perspective on this problem. I mean, how big is that gap between the increasing risk that communities are facing from wildfires and the funding that's currently available to deal with it?
Yeah, so the risk is obviously great, and it's continuing to grow as we sit in this very low snow winter so far. And, we just saw the Front Range on high fire alert with crazy winds and really warm temperatures. So the wildfire risk is escalating very quickly. And we've got the ponderosa beetles now, the beetles in the ponderosa forest, a lot of danger signs. And while it's difficult to pin an actual decline in federal funding, like find an actual number, we do know that the federal government is reshuffling the way that it funds firefighting. And that is sort of the larger concern right now is the uncertainty around that funding as the federal government under the Trump administration reshuffles how they fund wildfire mitigation and fighting. And the idea here is that this $130 million could help to kind of bridge that gap.
Sure.
It's a step, and it's state-controlled money, so that maybe the state would not necessarily be susceptible to the whims of the federal government and some of the federal issues that are going on with budget cuts right now, and it would be more dedicated funding for forest health, watershed health, open space conservation, as well as opening more recreational access.
This conservation proposal would allow the state to keep surplus sales taxes collected from gear that's used in fishing and camping, cycling, boating, and other outdoor activities, basically overriding part of Colorado's taxpayers' Bill of Rights. And again, proponents say it would raise about $130 million each year. How did they get to that number? And was there a particular reason they chose outdoor gear for this purpose?
That number is based on both federal and Colorado sales tax collections on outdoor gear in Colorado. And outdoor gear has long funded a lot of federal conservation efforts, but mostly on the backs of hunters and anglers, right? So when we go buy our hunting license, buy our guns, buy our fishing rods, all that stuff, the dedicated portion of that funding goes to the federal government for wildfire mitigation, public lands, and investment in wildlife. Yeah. But the idea here is that it would create a state fund, and you would be able to go through GOCO and Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and that would be more of a state-focused funding, which Colorado is already way ahead of the game when it comes to GOCO and lottery proceeds saving open space. And millions of acres have been protected with our lottery funds. It's a concept that's been kicked around for a while now. You know, we have hunters and anglers paying for fishing licenses, but say kayakers and mountain bikers don't pay anything, right? So there's this notion that how can we kind of even out the contributions throughout the entire outdoor recreation community and not necessarily always rely on hunters and anglers, as well as not necessarily rely on just federal funding and grants from the federal government, create our own statewide fund.
And yeah, like you said, share the burden a little bit more widely.
Exactly.
I know this proposal's in the very early stages, but Jason, I'm curious, who is lining up to oppose this and what are their objections?
Really, it was just filed, and I haven't seen formal opposition take shape. But, you know, in Colorado in 1992, we passed that Taxpayer Bill of Rights. And this process, it's called debrucing, and it's named after Douglas Bruce, who authored Tabor, which voters approved in 92. And there is always opposition to debrucing every time you propose it. But at the same time, conservation proposals really do resonate with Colorado voters. So, you know, I think we're going to see this balancing here with Colorado's desire to protect open space, to mitigate wildfires, to protect our wetlands, to make sure that we have recreational access for all sorts of residents. And that is going to be balanced by the general contention that you definitely don't want to take away the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. There's a lot of support for that. And it's important to note this is not an increase in taxes. It's not going to increase the cost of making, selling, manufacturing any of this equipment. It's simply retaining the existing sales tax collection and not returning it to taxpayers. So it's not an increase in taxes. And I imagine there will be opposition and there will be some pushback, but it hasn't really taken shape yet. We've got a long way to go before this actually reaches the ballot in November.
Yeah, supporters of the proposal need to get out and gather more than 124,000 signatures to get it on the ballot.
Yeah.
How savvy are the conservation groups who back this when it comes to getting a measure like this on the ballot?
Yeah, the Trust for Public Land in particular, that group has worked on 67 successful ballot questions in Colorado that increase funding for land protection, small parks to giant swaths of land. Nationally, the group supported 650 successful ballot measures, delivering $112 billion for conservation across the U.S. So they have momentum. Again, there will be pushback and there will be contention, but again, it's for something that really relates to a lot of Coloradans, I think.
That's Colorado Sun reporter Jason Blevins, who wrote about a proposal from some conservation groups to retain and redirect sales taxes from outdoor gear sales to fund wildfire prevention efforts. We'll include a link to his story in our show notes and at kunc.org. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thanks so much for listening.